I would like to bring up something that spiritual individuals experience and the different spirits. I spoke about the Jezebel spirit in my own way, right? I didn't make it biblical. And I want to speak about the Leviathan spirit because that's another spirit that has and had been tripping up those that love God. And so oftentimes when we lack the knowledge, not that we're not trying to learn, but we just lack the knowledge. We don't see it, and we may not have individuals around us that is discerning that can assist us as we go through life, right? Oftentimes, spiritual individuals have a lone walk. They walk alone in most of their life, right? So I want to get into it because I believe the Leviathan spirit is a hidden enemy of clarity in the life, right? Now, of course, I learned about this spirit from the Bible, but I want to put it in my words and maybe it'll help somebody else understand it. Now, when you are chosen, and you could take chosen to mean spiritual in any way, in any religion, in any faith, you're chosen, you're called by God, right? Now, when you are chosen, the attack rarely begins with your finances. It rarely starts with your health. It rarely begins with your progress. It begins with your clarity. Because once a chosen person sees clearly, nothing and no one can contain them. So the Leviathan spirit's first objective is simple. It is to twist your perception of people, places, things, and environments, your decisions that you don't you think you have a grasp of it, you think you can see it, but actually it's distorted, right? But you don't know it's distorted. You think you have all the facts and enough information to make a good decision, but this spirit likes to twist your perception. It likes to twist others' perception of you, to misjudge you, to mislead you, and twist the environment around you until the truth becomes hard to grab. Now, this is not a loud attack, it is subtle. It's dismantling mentally and even emotionally, because the kind that makes a chosen one question their instincts, their understanding, their relationships, and their inner compass. And that is your spirit, your intuition, right? And you don't lose your mind per se, you lose your clarity. And that's exactly what the spirit wants. The Leviathan is the spirit of distortion, not confusion, distortion. Confusion is a fog. Distortion is a bend, it's a twist, it's a warping. It does not remove truth, it bends it until people can't recognize it anymore. When Leviathan spirit is present, your motives get misread, your words get flipped, your intentions get distorted, your conversations become warfare, your emotions get tangled, your relationships lose trust, people become suspicious without cause, and clarity becomes unstable. Now, Leviathan's power is not in deception, its power is in distorting what is actually true, what is actually even true of you, so that you cannot move forward with stability. And why you would be a target is because of what you carry, your spiritual intelligence and your desire for the things of God and spirit, your emotional awareness, your sensitivity to truth, BS when you see it and hear it, discernment, the ability to unite people, and the ability to heal environments. That makes you a target. A really, really, well, it makes you a primary target. Because where the chosen rise, unity strengthens. And where the chosen speak, truth becomes too sharp to deny. And where the chosen step in, people begin to understand what was previously confusing. It is not meant for you to understand, to be able to acquire knowledge and actually apply it to your life. It doesn't mind if the information is moving, it moves you, but you can't make sense of it because it's distorting it before it reaches your spirit. So it moves you, it's something there, but it distorts it when it hits it. So it feels like my spirit needed that, but then you can't even apply it. It's almost like it makes no sense. And Leviathan, this spirit's mission is the opposite. It is meant to divide, distort, to twist, to disrupt unity, to corrupt communication, to sabotage divine relationships and attack trust where trust is required for destiny. Now, the chosen are targeted not because they are weak, but because they are the most dangerous to the kingdom of distortion. I'm not saying I'm calling it a kingdom of distortion, me, because your gift brings you clarity. Your presence forces truth to be revealed. People say things even that they don't want to say. They let you see and hear things that they may not have meant, but they don't know why. But it's your presence. You know why. Your presence forces the truth to come out, especially if they're after you, or it can harm you if it's hidden. If it remains hidden and it may interfere with your walk or your path or allow you to be manipulated. And you're not targeted because you're weak. We have that saying, kindness is weakness, but because you are the most dangerous. Your voice exposes falsehood without even trying. Leviathan fears that, so it strikes first. And this spirit does not just appear, it needs a doorway. A specific people becomes its carrier. Once it receives it finds an open doorway or window, those specific individuals becomes a carrier. And this spirit lives in people who believe they are never wrong. They're always right. They are above correction, and they are superior to others. See, when pride grows, accountability disappears. When accountability disappears, distortion takes the throne. These individuals become vessels for Leviathan spirit because they cannot receive truth. They twist it in order to protect themselves from having to be accountable. And so, offended people, I'm speaking about those who are unhealed in the area of offense. Offended people will rewrite reality to justify their feelings. The moment a person becomes deeply offended and refuses to heal, Leviathan gains authority over their perception. They become emotional storytellers instead of truth holders. So people who thrive on emotional turbulence, these are some people that cannot function in peace. Peace forces them to face themselves. So they don't want to be in quiet. They don't want to be alone. They don't want to meditate. They don't want to seek counseling because those are intimate things where you're forced to reflect. And that's not something they're capable of doing because it hurts, right? It causes them to tap into feelings they really need to bury. So when they feel calm, they stir chaos. When they feel understood, they create misunderstandings. And when things are clear, they start bending things until the chosen becomes the villain. These individuals are easy carriers and also people who fear losing control. That spirit will enter people who feel powerless. Instead of healing, they distort situations to regain control. So they'll twist narratives, they'll twist relationships, conversations, facts, and even emotions, because this is how they cope. This is also how the spirit moves. Now, there's also generational dysfunction that is passed down. And some families are marked by miscommunication, financial sabotage, emotional coldness, jealousy, backbiting, betrayal, secret resentment, and unspoken hostility. In these family lines, that spirit is not new because it is inherited. And the chosen ones on this earth in a family becomes the first person to see it because they are the only one who wasn't shaped by distortion. Now, this part is where most chosen people finally understand, well, I hope, what has been happening to them for years. It attacks your relationships first. See, because destiny moves through relationships. So your partnerships, your connections, the right people, the right rooms, your children, right? Your congregation, it's the relationships. So this spirit works overtime to twist your words so it's not received in a manner in which you intended, because it'll make people feel weird around you. It'll turn misunderstandings into fallout without even a discussion. Years of a friendship, years of a relationship, and a miscommunication can have a complete tear in a relationship that cannot find its way to mend. And it'll make people misread your intentions. And it'll cause your friends to distance themselves. It'll block reconciliation, and it'll turn supporters into skeptics. Now, this attack is subtle. It feels like an invisible hand rotating the room around you. That's my metaphor. Now, people you love will suddenly not hear you accurately. People you trusted suddenly feel threatened by you. And people who once adored you sense something is off. It's not you, it's distortion being broadcast through the environments around you. It will begin to attack your emotional stability. When the spirit is near, you'll experience sudden emotional heaviness, feeling misunderstood no matter how clear you speak. You're repeatedly explaining and feeling isolated even when people are around because they don't care to be around you. You can feel it, your energy, right? You're the odd person out in a crowded room. You feel judged even when you're innocent, and you're feeling unsteady even when nothing is wrong. It feels like something's about to happen. It wants you emotionally destabilized. And I spoke of that, I believe, in the earlier video. The main thing is to have you destabilized emotionally because emotional clarity is one of your greatest gifts. And it'll attack your self-trust. When this spirit is present, you begin questioning your intuition. And, maybe I shouldn't, maybe that's just me, I'm getting it wrong. And your instincts, you meet someone and you sense fear, but because it doesn't make sense to you, you will ignore it and continue to walk into a dangerous situation and into harm because you are questioning your discernment and even your memory. God could have taken you and delivered you and blessed you and helped you and healed you and kept you in the worst of times. But you forget what he's done for you already, how you've gotten over. You forget about it, right? And then it also attacks your judgment, not because you're wrong, but because your reality is being twisted around you. And it will attack your voice. The chosen are dangerous because they speak truth with authority. So this spirit will try to discredit your voice. They try to create misunderstandings. They'll cause people to doubt your intentions. And they make your words sound different to others in order to silence your confidence, because the goal is to disrupt your ability to communicate clearly. It creates an environment where everything you say becomes misinterpreted. And it will attack divine relationships. If it's a marriage, a covenant with your children, your extended family, your parents, your religious leaders, right? Your elders and men and women of God, right? This spirit cannot tolerate covenant level friendships. It can't tolerate destiny connections. So your partnerships that build your assignment irritates it. And also the alliances that elevate your calling. So it plants suspicion, doubt, fear, and hostility, just enough to make people back away from relationships that were heaven sent. And this is why the chosen experience confusion right when a divine connection enters their life, because this spirit intercepts it before the bond can strengthen. And these are indicators. You say A and they hear Z. You clarify, you keep explaining, and they continue to flip it, and you find yourself trying to stand in your truth, and you're continuously trying to debate what you actually said, when it's actually you're feeding them your beautiful energy. You're giving it to them, and they're eating it up, they're absorbing it, right? Because the more you give to them and their antics, the weaker you are, right? The less powerful you are. They understood you the first time. They didn't want you to think that you spoke that clear, right? If you settle things with someone or even with yourself, you've gotten over something or you've had healing, they resurrect it. And they can't apologize because humility breaks the spirit instantly. If they sincerely apologize, that spirit can be broken off. And pride keeps it alive because they rewrite history. They tell a version of events that protects their image, not the truth. And they'll turn people against each other. They never confront directly, they influence indirectly. And I'll get into that in a minute, because they speak half truths, not full lies, half truths that distort reality to the point where the average person will say, well, why would they lie? That part is true. But what they did was they took a small part of the truth and connected it and attached it to what they were trying to accomplish. And so they project what they are doing, because if they're twisting, they'll accuse you of twisting words, twisting the story. And they sabotage relationships quietly, not openly, quietly, subtly, and strategically. The deepest truth is why this spirit fears you. Because once a chosen person gains clarity, you can see clear. You've had time alone and you're beginning to process, right? You're getting into your spiritual tradition, your religious tradition, and you're focused, and you begin to have ideas and afterthoughts, and oh, that's what that meant. And oh, this, now I see this person did say that, because that would have been the only person that would have known. So when this person came, things will start making sense. Little droplets, right? So every manipulator gets exposed and every false connection collapses. Every distorted story will begin to unravel. This is what they fear when you gain clarity, and every unhealthy pattern gets confronted, and every relationship sent by darkness has to get out, get cut, and every environment that was toxic loses access, and every hidden motive becomes easy for you to see. It becomes apparent to you, and every spiritual attack will begin to lose its grip, because you having clarity makes you unstoppable. So it fears you because your clarity destroys its entire assignment. The key is to distort things. But if you're clear, you know what to pray for, you know what to anoint, you know what to do, right? Because your voice breaks its entire agenda, and your presence interrupts its entire plan. And this is why it attacked you first, and why it attacked you early. Some of you in childhood, you were violated, you were misunderstood, you were abused, neglected, never could keep a friend, or never was part of the cool kids, or always the family scapegoat or the black sheep, right? So it may attack you early, or early in your ministry, early in your walk, early on your path, early in your profession, because it sees where you're going, right? And it it attacks you hard, not because, again, because you're weak, but because you are the threat. This is where the war actually begins for you, and your ability to see and understand clearly. So it doesn't need to destroy you, just distort everything around you until destruction happens without its direct involvement. They'll be right beside you, or working with you, or for you. And what they're doing, or they have access to your home, your family, or information, and they're able to do things subtly, and it is meant, their intention is to destroy things, right, through distortion. And because they're not saying anything, you think they're unaware. You may be explaining to them everything that's happening, and they're loving your energy because it's so sweet to their spirit. It's so sweet to their dark soul. You are pouring your heart out. You're trying to figure it out. You don't understand. You're saying the devil is a lie. There's witches all around me. You're saying all this stuff when actually it's a spirit around you. And it's carried by an individual, right? And I wouldn't know who that individual is or what they represent, but it will come through an individual, and it can be projected onto the atmosphere, because it thrives where the truth can be twisted, where conversations go left without warning, where relationships lose stability for no logical reason. And all it needs is perception to shift just a little, because this spirit aims to twist your communication, your perception, your relationship dynamics, your trust, and your motives. It shows up the moment a chosen person begins evolving into clearer awareness. It appears when you are stepping into a new level of self-understanding and emotional maturity and spiritual authority. It tries to stop that development by corrupting the environment of clarity that is around you. And why you feel misunderstood is because this spirit makes people hear you wrong. You can preach a sermon and they have no clue. They will go and tell somebody something you never even said. You don't even know how they even was able to receive that. But because it's just distorted, right? So there's that misunderstanding, and it makes simple communication feel like warfare. And your innocence becomes accusations, and your intention becomes an offense, because this sensation of being misunderstood by environments that should have supported you, and maybe even early in your life, and you carry the residue of it into your marriage, your relationships, your new friendships, your adulthood, high school, college, your professions. That's why healing is so important. Healing is very important. If you have a place of worship, or you have a way in which you can spend time alone, right? Meditation, reading your Bible, or whatever, saying your prayers, That's necessary because every little bit helps. Because before your voice can reach other, it tries to silence your confidence. Before your connections can strengthen, it'll undermine them. And before your purpose can expand, it'll destabilize your relationships. You can end up being blessed with something and your children go crazy. You can get a blessed with a wonderful job and lose your daycare center or your other. There's no one left to babysit or care for your kids or pick your kids up. It's just something. That's just an example. Because they don't need for you to have stable relationships. And once distortion takes root, you lose, right? Because you are attacked because you see too much. You can go around someone that's spiritual or religious leader, and you feel they can see through your soul. They can see right in there, and they know all the things you're doing, right? They're gifted, right? And they're called. And although they don't say anything to you, they know something, right? Because you understand very deeply and you operate too truthfully. And this spirit fears you having clarity for those reasons because clarity exposes the entire strategy. That's why when spiritual or chosen individuals and people who are called and gifted spiritually, this is exactly why they fear you having clarity because of the strategy needs to be hidden. They know you're powerful in the spirit. So when they work with you, they got to do it. They have to do it strategically. And oftentimes the individual has no idea. You're called, you're gifted, you're spiritual, what you practice, what they have no idea, right? And so they underestimate you, but they know they can't mess up. They can't slip up because they do feel if they slip up, you're perceptive enough to have an understanding. And that's it. Once you become aware, right? So again, the carriers can be individuals who's offended, they're controlling spirits, they're narcissistic. That's an example of a controlling spirit, I call it. When the person is offended easily because they have lifelong resentment and bitterness due to things that was not within their control. Growing up in poverty, single parent households, parents divorcing, growing up in foster care, in and out of the system, making a mistake when they're a teen, things like that. And spiritual pretenders. Let's talk about that. People who can speak with spiritual language, but they lack humility. They crave influence, attention, and superiority. And this spirit clings to false depth because false depth is already twisted. And these individuals can also become as bold to try to get close to spiritual leaders because they feel as though they can do it better or they can do what you can do. You're no better than them, right? So they'll do that. They'll pretend. And these are individuals, I spoke about it. These are individuals, once they get a following, it becomes a cultish atmosphere. Control, no independent thinking. And also carriers, again, are the generationally damaged due to miscommunication and emotional secrets. I have a video on that. Quiet hostilities, being betrayed, cycles of jealousy and resentment of one another in the family. And this is when it's inherited. And because that chosen child or young person, maybe even a young minister, someone just starting out, and they come in fresh and pure with good intentions, they can walk even into a ministry and they can be the first person who notices distortion. And then they become the first person to be attacked by it, right? The chosen experience unique and targeted attacks because of the role they play in the earth. The main battleground is communication, relationship dynamics, emotional clarity, and internal stability. Again, you say one thing, they hear something completely different. You clarify, they twist it again. This is strategic. This is not miscommunication. This is distortion. And the chosen thrive in the right relationships, and this spirit knows that. So it'll target congregations, mentor relationships, soulmate connections, spiritual alliances, destiny helpers, and supportive friendships. And by the time the chosen realize what happened, the bond is already weakened. So it's attacking your emotional grounding with that sudden heaviness and random discouragement and feeling misunderstood even by people who know you well. Feeling judged even when you're innocent. It tries to break your confidence quietly. Because once you begin to question your instincts, discernment, your judgment, your identity, and your purpose, and you lose trust in your own voice, you become spiritually disabled. And they will turn others against you without evidence. Sudden tension, sudden personality shifts. People who defended you suddenly become cold. The spirit influences perception to isolate the chosen, hoping they'll retreat from their calling. But we understand now that when we lose everything around us, it wasn't meant to be. There's a lesson in it. And as we lose individuals around us, and the more and the less and the smaller our circle becomes, even if it becomes a circle of one, meaning you're going to gain clarity if you work on yourself. If you work on yourself and stop just saying, I'm lonely, I'm lonely, I wish I had somebody. You're not working on yourself, right? Working on yourself to the point you get content. So this spirit understands human psychology deeply. So it doesn't need access to your spirit if it can influence the emotions of those around you. So this type of person will go around you and talk about you to family, friends, co-workers, business partners, relationships, in order to get people around you to begin to see you differently. And you may even be pouring your heart out to this individual, but they know that they're the cause. They are the cause. They want you to give them that energy, that sweet, pure spiritual energy. But they don't understand. They can never take your calling, right? And if someone feels you meant harm, they will treat that feeling as truth. And this type of spirit, the Leviathan spirit, manipulates feelings. And many people would rather distort reality than accept they were wrong, and this makes them easy to use. Now, the chosen are often punished for things they never intended, and this is why the Leviathan shapes how people interpret your actions. When you're like, wow, why am I so misunderstood? They should know I'm not like that. I don't live like that. I don't act like that. I don't behave like that. Why would they think I would do something like that? Because they're trying to distort even your reputation, your character. They want you to be seen as not being promotable, lacking integrity. And when people carry unhealed trauma, they'll twist everything through that wound. And so to make sure that it's not you, you have to always work on yourself. Prayer, healing, however you receive your spiritual healing, however you work on yourself. But again, it's usually, even if all of your relationships in your life are fine and well and healthy, you still would need to spend time by yourself, right? Because of who you are and the mantle that you carry. And see, this type of spirit will attach to unhealed areas because those areas are already unstable. So if you lack trust and you're married, so you can have a faithful partner, but everything you one little incident or one little familiar happening, you're related to the person can't be entrusted. You can't be trusted, and then you'll spew out accusations. And if one person starts sensing something off, others will follow. And that's the purpose, to contaminate everyone. It's like going into an atmosphere knowing you have a bad case of the flu. And you go around touching everything, and you're in this big old event with many people. You're shaking hands, you're hugging and kissing on cheeks, and you're hoping no one notices. But you're contaminating everything you touch, right? And then I'll just leave it there. And this is why whole families, whole workplaces, whole communities can turn on one chosen individual without evidence. You cannot fight distortion with emotion. You cannot correct a twisted perception with more conversation. You cannot convince a person under this spirit of influence through explanation, because you defeat the spirit through clarity, setting up boundaries, spiritual intelligence, and emotional discipline. So do not over explain. Explanations get twisted too. Set boundaries with these carriers, not out of anger, but out of protection. And guard your emotion. This spirit thrives when you're reactive. You're pouring out your heart. Everything is falling apart. Now they secretly have all your business, so they're going around to everyone. I wouldn't trust him. I wouldn't trust her if I was you. She's my friend, but woo, you don't want her. Or they'll say something. Oh, you're going in business with him? Almost like it'll make the person question, right? So you have to set boundaries with these people, because the spirit thrives when you're reactive. So you have to learn how to stay calm, centered, and factual. And a lot of that we get by spending time by ourselves, right? And document reality. Sometimes it's good to journal about your day, right? Journal about your day or meditate about your day, because what happens is this keeps your mind stable. Because if you just start taking in and absorbing all this confusing chaos in this atmosphere, toxicity, and you don't process it, you begin to accept it yourself. And you become unstable because you believe it's something wrong with you. And so you're not to allow outside voices to influence your relationships God sent to strengthen you. So keep your voice pure. Do not let bitterness twist your communication. See, because the spirit you're battling wants you to become what you're fighting. A spirit does not attack what it does not fear. This is the part most chosen people never hear. You were attacked because clarity is your gift. You were attacked because your voice disrupts deception. You were attacked because your presence destabilizes untruth. And you were attacked because your awareness exposes dysfunctional systems. You're seen as a threat because your discernment is too sharp, your emotional intelligence is too advanced, your purpose gathers what the spirit tries to scatter. Your life brings understanding where others bring confusion. Your calling gives people permission to confront truth, and your presence forces dishonesty to reveal itself. Everything this spirit fears, you naturally carry, you innately are, and they can't touch that. And once you understand this, understand who carries the spirit, how it operates, why it attacks, what it wants, and how to defeat it, that chosen person becomes dangerous to darkness. You are not attacked because you were weak. I can't say that enough. You are attacked because you are the only one in your environment capable of breaking generational distortion, environmental toxicity. You can cut through it. And this is why you were hated early. This is why you were misunderstood often. This is why relationships collapsed around you. This is why people projected onto you. And this is why your voice was attacked. You were hated early because the environment that you were in knew how special you were. They couldn't put their finger on it. And so you were misunderstood often. And this is why relationships collapse too. And also, they can collapse. And God uses the collapse, the betrayal, when you once they leave or you leave their presence and relationship, he can really work on you, and they serve as lessons and experience. You are the one sent to clear the confusion that everyone else